The action is already kicking off. If we can move over to my screen, it is going to be SK Gaming against INNERFIRE. And by the looks of things, SK Gaming are in a bad spot right now. Another taking a lot of damage. Desis on the back of him. He's down to 5k HP. And as we can see, he nearly went down, so it's not over by any means. So all players back up to reasonable health. Desis racing for another to come out of that ice block. Mass Dispel resisted, and that was pretty bad for SK Gaming. The Enigmas is counterspelled right now. Desis trying to get back on the back of him, and he does.
Just to point out, Enig's has already used his Innovate, so he's got 4k mana versus Phenom's 4k mana. So go on then, Matt.
Yep, another interesting talking point is down to almost no mana there. He does go down from Desis, and INNERFIRE take SK Gaming out in the first round of the upper brackets, round 2.
Yeah, so sorry just to not be able to give you the start of that matchup, but we were waiting for Phenom to restart his router, and then he ninja'd back in. But we are going to have round 1 then go to INNERFIRE versus SK Gaming. And Matt, you were in that from the get-go. What was the opener like, and what did SK Gaming like?
Well, I wasn't in there from the get-go. Really? I was in there from about halfway through.
Oh.
Because we had an advertisement break.
Yeah, I enjoyed German Transformers.
Yeah.
Freaky. They're all Mercedes. Okay, so looking at the damages done, look at this. Let's have a look at this as an interesting point, because it is kind of interesting. Phenom did 20k, 66k from Desis, Cole did 31. SK really never got going, 23, 19 their damages. Healing done on the Nigs was a lot, but he had Dispelled on his Innovate. But still, just the damage pump out from the whole team, especially, I mean, look at it. They were going for another, so they just controlled the Warrior this time. So they probably opened up on him, forced him to use Trinket maybe on the 14k damage they did. Then they controlled him. Whether or not that was the 14k after the fight was already over is yet to be seen. So nicely played from INNERFIRE, doing what AAA couldn't, and that was to take a round off SK. So INNERFIRE are going to go 1 and 2 away from moving into the grand final. So SK, in your opinion, Matthew, should they stick with this lineup, go back to Cleave, go on the DK, or stay with the Mage, considering the Mage was getting trained? Because this is the problem I thought originally, was like, you lose a member for too long of a time. That Warrior is too easy to control. Fair enough. Like, especially he's going to have to trinket something at the beginning, because if you're putting that much pressure onto the Mage, he's kind of screwed. I mean, the Mage has to line of sight. If he lines of sight and with the Druid for a little bit too long, as they heal him up, they can burst the Warrior down, and then he's at a health deficit that you probably can't heal up even as a Priest, because you're going to get control, even as a Druid, because you're still going to get that, you know, deep freeze maybe just to interrupt something, which you have to, shapeshift out or whatever. It's just going to be too much. Your opinion?
I don't really have an opinion. I'd like to hear what another's got to say and what they're going to do.
You're not a politician,
I
can't.
Sorry?
You have to have some sort of opinion. Only politicians avoid
I am a politician. I'm a politician of Azeroth.
Cool. How's that working out?
Yeah, pretty good, yeah. We've
have you
recently had a meeting in the Stormwind Castle.
Could you hook me up with Jane Proudmoore?
No, Jay. I've already got my eyes on her.
That's it. We're going to have a fight over Jane Proudmoore. Is it Jane or Jaina? Does she like to be called Jane?
Yeah, Jane.
JP, maybe?
No, Jane works for her.
Okay.
Yeah, she loves it.
Okay. That was weird, but I like it. She is hot, though.
So we are going to go into the second game. It's going to be on Ring of Valor. Let's see how that pans out.
Can you tell I'm tired and I've come back from Sweden? It's dangerous for me to cast.
Yeah? You should have had some coffee, Jay.
No, because last week you had coffee, Matt, and I saw what it did.
I have coffee every week, but I haven't had enough this week. So round 2, SK Gaming are going to be on the left of your screens again, and INNERFIRE, they're going to be on the right. It's 3 on 2.
Well, it's 3 on 2 at the moment, but I think that Phenom's probably going to join, hopefully soon. Either that or his router's crashed. There we go, 3 on 3. So let's get in game then. And INNERFIRE versus SK. SK top left, INNERFIRE top right. And another, he's changed up. He's gone to the DK. Now he's not going to get trained. If they try and go for him, that's going to be really, really difficult. And, well, we'll have to see what they can do. What do you think of that one, Matthew?
Yeah, could be hard. Could be tough.
Matt is actually walking to the other side of the studio getting a drink. All right, so we'll let him. Yeah, get me some water, Matt. Actually, no, don't. All right, Yeah, Waterboy. Promoted. Okay, so SK Gaming versus iNNERFIRE. Ring of Valor is going to open, and it's a good choice that they went the cleave because, seriously, they could really, really drop Phenom here. So let's see what another RDSA can put down. Let's see if Desis and Cold can defend. You can see that Phenom there is going to be at the back right, already a Chains of Ice, but dispels himself and gets out of line of sight. Desis can actually open up here onto another, and a little bit of a page out of Insidious book as they are going to concentrate onto another. He's caught into a kidney. Looking at the Druid now, you can see there comes a Chains of Ice and a Death Grip. That was needed. Anti-Magic Shell will keep him onto Phenom, and that's going to be good. There comes in AMZ. Finally, RDSA joins the fight after he's out of poly rotation. Not sure if he's going to have to use his Blade Storm now to actually just drop as much damage. In comes the Sweeping Strikes from RDSA. We can expect a Blade Storm on top of it. He's got Recklessness up, but he's caught into a cheap shot. He's not put into a kidney. At the moment, another caught into a Frost Nova. RDSA, let's switch over to him. In comes the Blade Storm, and he will actually put into a Nova directly afterwards. But again, Phenom is going really, really low. He pet is out from the DK. And, well, at the moment, in comes a Cyclone as well onto the Mage. The fight is now 2v3. They can actually switch onto the Rogue if they wanted to. Yep. They actually have a Mortal Strike up onto the Rogue now.
The Priest coming out there. And I'll tell you what, iNNERFIRE are really in trouble when it comes to mana.
Well,
no, maybe not. Look back up to 9k.
Innovate and Barkskin used a Fear onto Enix. At the moment, none of his team are dropping low. Pillar comes up, and he's going to be loving that situation for the moment.
That was a great Fear onto Enix, and he has used his Innovate now. He's almost at full mana. Kidney Shot coming out onto another. They're going to unleash some damage. Look at that. He dropped down to 5k. He's straight back up to 11.
Yeah, anti-magic shells come up as well. Going to jump the fire and going to back off a little bit and bunk up over here with a full mana bar Druid. So Poly onto RDSA. They're actually going to switch to RDSA now. Here comes a Spell Reflect, dismantle on RDSA. Another's going to come back in to try and drop as much damage onto Desis. Desis uses his Cloak of Shadows. He's trying to mitigate as much damage as he can, but once that's down, he's going to have to kill RDSA through a shield wall. He's already used dismantle, so that shield wall is going to stay clean, and that was maybe a mistake. Even though another is in a poly, Desis is going to take a lot of damage. RDSA has a lot of rage to drop. He's got sudden death proc. He is going to drop it, and Desis has to kite this off. Desis there, kind of 5-8ing at the moment, is going to get Chain of Ice perfectly into the fire, and that's going to make it even harder for Phenom to heal. And Phenom, look at that, it has 76 mana, isn't going to be able to keep Desis alive much longer, despite playing fantastically to kite out this game well. But really, a few times the kill could have come in. I honestly believe that maybe a small mistake from Desis, but also good defensive control.
I think he's going to drop now. iNNERFIRE really in trouble. Phenomenon down to 100 mana. He will go down, and that will be game for SK Gaming. We're sitting at 1 apiece now. It is all over, guys. It is all over. Wonderful play there.
Yeah, it is over, but don't go home because the fight is going to recontinue in a moment as SK take the second round, and now the score goes 1-1. Yep. And wow, looking at the damages, which are really, really interesting, I believe that this is why they won. Because, I don't know, 94k damage for Red Sea, 101k for another, but look at this, 100k for both, so that was a really even game. But even though the damage was the same, what's weird is that Enix obviously had such an easier time healing and did so much more. That's Druids over Priests.
What were the defining moments for you in that game?
Well, basically, you didn't get the Innovate off, and they didn't get the kills when they needed them. RDSA didn't drop the best Blade Storm in the world, but he dropped an important one to kind of, because you need to make sure you just don't get controlled in certain moments. Because another actually, he used all his defensive cooldowns while RDSA was being controlled. Then he was out of Anti-Magic Shell, and he was out of AMZ, okay? So, and also Bone Shield, you know, off as well. So he was like, okay, I can be killed now. RDSA was out of some CC. Had RDSA not dropped that Blade Storm, they can still just be like, okay, we're just going to channel some more damage. And he stopped people from doing damage at time.
So they used the Blade Storm defensively to split up the fight. And
I think when another was out of CC, that Blade Storm just came in at a decent enough moment to kind of help him. Also, the dismantle coming in before a shield wall onto RDSA from Desis stopped him from taking that away, because another was in a full poly. There could have been a kill there had he have saved his dismantle onto RDSA. So maybe Desis was just kind of like trying to prevent the shield wall from coming while he tried to get a kill within the dismantle, which is always a viable tactic.
Yep.
Also stops him from, you know, doing other stuff defensively. So yeah, but it didn't work out because heals are great. So we are going to go in then into round 3. And it's going to be Ruins of Lordaeron. I'm following RDSA at the moment. And I mean, this POV at the beginning is going to be pretty pointless unless they're going to open up onto him. But opening up onto another seems good. Another's going to be sat there with the Druid. The Druid is obviously going to be in tree form. There comes a preemptive, because the movement
look
actually...
at this early opener, actually. Phenomenon is going to have RDSA on his back. He's got that hamstring up.
Yeah, another is actually going to be opened up to solo here, but he hasn't actually been dispelled. There comes a dispel onto him, and he's going to be spam dispelled at the moment. Chains of Ice, RDSA into a poly. Now, RDSA doesn't have much rage when he gets back into this. Second wind will be procced, though, and there's enough rage that he needs to get onto his target. Now, what's important is another. If another can get on successfully and cleanly, just as another gets on, there's obviously going to be used a pain suppression.
Came out there, and Phenomenon has been forced to use pain suppression very early indeed. No significant pressure being done by iNNERFIRE onto SK Gaming. And by the looks of things, this is a bad start for them.
Yeah, and actually, this is, you know, it's going to be too hard. Phenomenon's out of cooldowns right now. You can see at the back end, RDSA is going to be harassing that mage just to kind of interrupt. He's going to try and get back onto his target. RDSA needs to be put into CC. He needs to be controlled off. Desis having to use sprint to get away. He doesn't want to be targeted. RDSA is going to be using a retaliation, shield up, looking for getting rid of that poly. Not going to happen. He's going to have to sit in that now. So another potential target. And comes a Holy Fire onto another. There comes an AMZ afterwards. But this is going to be good because Desis is now a potential target. Phenom could be killed as well, but I honestly believe that they're maybe going to stick with Desis. Another could be polyed off. Desis is actually going to switch away. Going to try and train the Druid into the starting area.
There comes a kidney shot. And look, Phenomenon's going to try and get in range for this nuke. Look, he's down to 10k, and the smites and Holy Fires are coming in. He's into travel form. Counterspell comes in. In comes the Death Grip onto Desis. He just took him away just in time. Enigmas nearly goes down to 1.5k, 1k. He does go down. Great stuff from iNNERFIRE.
Yeah, brilliant, and that was really nice. Desis managing to get back onto his target there, but the fight is still on. These two can take this. RDSA is currently into a poly. Looking over at another, he's into a kidney, and whether or not he can actually go back onto the target of the rogue afterwards. Nah, that kidney was the end of it, and good choice for Desis to go for it. Had he have not been able to put someone into a stun lock, there's a chance that they could have actually zerged someone down. But iNNERFIRE are going to take the second round, and what was really noticeable about that was their sheer... I thought at the beginning they were losing. But then they were so calm.
Without a doubt.
Yeah, they were so calm under pressure. You don't see people that calm under pressure when everything's going really hectic and you've got the Death Knight throwing at gargoyles and making annoying desecrates, which are actually twice the size that they look. And it's just like, and you just kind of go, and it's a sheer sign of how confident and calm and collected iNNERFIRE were to be able to swap targets that many times, to be able to rotate CC that successfully, you know, in coordination. I know you're not playing against a Dispeller, but still, they did it nicely. And looking at the damages...
you know what? I thought when Desis got Death Grips back to another, I thought that was over. I thought the Phenomenon and Cold wouldn't be able to do enough burst damage together to get him down. But that wound poison, Abolish just didn't remove it. And it was just up long enough for them to get him down together without Desis.
Yeah, no, it was really nicely done. And just looking at how much switching they did, look at this. Another took 88k, 46 onto RDSA, 40 onto a Nix. And the other team as well, they switched, but kind of ignoring Cold. There was a couple of moments when RDSA was on him. But we are going to go back in then to the arena. These guys are going to be joining Nagrand. And currently is iNNERFIRE are on 2. And SK are on 1. So iNNERFIRE are going to be on a match point, which means they have 2 match points to kind of take this best of 5. And SK are going to be playing, you know, from that deficit. They're going to stick with their cleave. So let's see if this will work. And Matthew, what's your opinion about SK sticking with this lineup?
Well, I think it's the right choice. I mean, without a doubt, after that last game, I think they were hoping to take iNNERFIRE by surprise, but iNNERFIRE seem to have a solid strategy for when another is playing the mage. What do you think, Jay?
Yeah, well, when they played the mage, yeah, they had a solid strategy, I do believe. I think they felt that maybe they got unlucky. I do believe that actually that might have been a piercing howl that got Desis out. Yeah, Desis was put out with a, a
very early
shout.
blind there, straight off the bat onto Inigs, and he's used his trinket, so that might open him up for a burst nuke.
Yeah, actually, another is going to have to fight this solo for the moment. RDSA actually is in a poly. He got Cone of Cold as well. He's going to join the fight. That was a fear from the team of RDSA, intimidating shout to kind of break up the fight. In comes damage then onto Desis, improved hamstring on him as well. He is going to keep on fighting another, dismantle onto another, and he's going to kite away. There comes a chains of ice.
He's going to pull him back.
And look at this, RDSA. He's going to drop some serious damage onto Desis in a moment. He gets a COC, and he's actually using it onto the priest right now, but there comes a switch. Gargoyle's going to be up, and Desis knows he's in trouble. He's going to have to use a lot of defensive cooldowns here to get away. At the moment, Inigs is behind the pillar. He could have maybe gone more offensive. There comes the Blade Storm, and evasion on top of that. Actually, no evasion on top of that. Finally, an evasion comes out a little bit late when he was down to 13k HP, and now they're going to pull in the priest, and this is perfect. This is what they want to do. You hassle one, and then you try and harass the other. Oh, and that Frost Nova, maybe that stopped a Gnaw onto the priest, and we'll have to see. Yeah, a Gnaw actually comes in onto Phenom, so that Frost Nova, or Pet Nova, was amazing to stop actually that from being interrupted, and that's going to keep iNNERFIRE alive for a little bit longer. There comes a penance onto Desis. Let's switch over to RDSA as he's going to spell Reflect on Iceland. It's also going to put some pressure down. He's going to actually be under pressure right now.
Great job preventing Desis from getting onto an Inigs, but he is going to get on him now. But Inigs knew it was coming. He is hotted up with a couple of life beams and Abolish. Look, that Abolisher removes the crippling, and he does get away. So great stuff.
Yeah, and Niggs actually knew that was going to happen. Once again, sweeping strikes up, so RDSA trying to drop damage inside it, and Niggs isn't going to have a hard time here. We've got to look over to Desis. His positioning is crucial to whether they win or lose. Desis is going to get intercepted. He has is obviously going to have a hamstring on top of him as well. He's also got Ren, so damage on Desis is going to be bad. There comes a Cyclone onto the Mage of Cold, and no, actually it was Phenom, so Desis didn't take much damage there in that situation, but now he's taking a lot of damage, and this is when it's going to be dangerous. Cleave, all they need to do is get on him.
Yep, heals are coming in, and he doesn't have MS up on him, so Phenomenon's not going to be under too much pressure.
IR drinking. Nick's actually having to drink in that situation, and that's big.
Another is going low. Managed to get a dispel off him, get him in combat. Look at this. Another is going to have Desis targeted, and then Sheep comes out from Cold. They're going to try and get back onto Inigs. Go for that switch yet again.
From Desis. Oh, there comes a Gouge, plus a spell reflect onto the Ice Lance. RDSA at the moment, though, can get away. He is actually going to get away, actually, onto the Priest. This is a good move. Now, they're probably going to have to poly off RDSA. And another is actually going to be into that poly. So, yeah, they can't poly off RDSA, and in comes a massive amount of damage. But we have to look over to Inigs, because his fight may be more important. As and then comes an opener, and surely Inigs is going to be in trouble, but Phenom has gone down. This is their chance. Oh, and Cold has to use Evocate, and Inigs is going to run. He sees Cold, and then he sees that he's got an arrow in his middle of the screen, but he doesn't care because they've already won. That was amazing.
Yeah.
That game was frigging cool.
Yeah, when I saw
that think that game was cool,
when I saw the Blade Storm come in from RDSA, I knew
it was kind of over,
be able to handle it.
In that situation, because that was like the third poly that Neville was in, all right? So he was out, and I thought, okay, you're going to have to switch. There's going to have to be a poly onto RDSA, the little warrior, and then they're going to have to just see if they can control another's damage and just try and get away from him. You know, maybe a Cone of Cold before he actually got on to be able to strike, you know, and obviously slow, but obviously Chains of Ice maybe. But maybe they could have got away and kited that long enough. Now, had they have done that, had Cold have had mana, I also believe there would have been a cross kill, because the Desis reopener was good. I mean, he got him down to like, what, 6K? And had he had Cold with him, he would have won. But Cold had to evocate. And that was just unlucky.
That was crippling, and that was bad communication from them. I've also have to say, I think they were a little too persistent in trying to get onto Inigs, especially when RDSA was around there cycling those hamstrings, rotating them on like 2 or 3 targets at a time. And the other thing to bear in mind is that, you know, when it comes to getting on the back of a Druid, it has to be at the opportune moment, the perfect moment. It has to be at a moment when RDSA doesn't have too many diminishing returns on that Sheep, so that Cold can keep him CC'd, and he's not going to refresh those Cyclones. It also has to be a moment when hamstring is either not up or about to expire. But of course, there's always another who's going to be in the picture, Death Gripping, Chains of Icing, so it's really tough for them to get those kills onto Inigs.
Yeah. No, it is. But the other thing that iNNERFIRE are trying to do to this team that other teams weren't, even though they're now playing Cleve, is they're trying to rotate off targets when they aren't fully bloomed.
Yep.
Because it's really hard for a Druid to have to heal one target, then have to hot up another target, then another target. Because even if you stick a couple of life blooms, you take them off with Dispel, yeah, you get your mana back, but at the same time, you might not be able to get his health back in that situation. So I really think that iNNERFIRE are playing really, really nicely to switch up.
It really showed towards the end there when Enix was basically out of mana, even with the hugely powerful Innovate, you know?
Yeah. No, it was. I'm not sure if it got dispelled or what. I honestly didn't see it. But the fact is he had to drink and he was able to drink, which was kind of a little bit like, well, that really shouldn't happen. But you also, we're going to go in game here, guys.
They're definitely forcing him to maximize his HOTS rotation.
But so. SK did the same thing. They go on Desis and then they bring in Phenom when they know Desis is low and they probably can't control that priest, because damage on the priest is control. Him having to heal 2 people, but that Nova, that Pet Nova, Pet Freeze, sorry, as it's called, or whatever it was that stopped that pet from gnawing, iNNERFIRE, gave them a really big chance to come back, and that's probably why that they were so much more mana efficient. But we are going to go then into the final round here in the upper bracket finals of the ESL TV Invitationals Grand Finals, and only one team can win, and we hope to get them back onto an interview when we have a little bit more time on WoW Wednesdays next week, maybe.
We'll be having plenty of interviews next week, and hopefully one with the one and only Inflame that you guys have been wanting. Hopefully we won't have any technical glitches, and hopefully Patrick will actually answer the phone. So charge coming in onto an intercept, in fact, the charge and then an intercept onto Phenomenon, who's going to be under pressure again. RDSA sitting in a sheep, and a Thea comes out of that sheep, sitting in a Nova at the moment, and all the early damage from iNNERFIRE is going to be onto Enix, and they're going to change now onto another who has a wound and crippling up.
Enix is
blowing his cloak of shadows and just
cycloned,
strafing around. He's switching now that another's sitting in a sheep. Going to be going for that switch onto Enix, maybe try and force a very early Nature's Swiftness, 5-point kidney shot, but Enix isn't taking significant enough damage really for this pressure to really force
There is no pressure on him at the moment
cooldown,
because they've been locking down Desis, and speaking of locking down, Desis gets pulled in to another gonna have him slowed. There comes, and this is gonna be bad for Desis. He's got MS up onto the back of him. A Cyclone, there comes an improved counterspell onto the Druid, and they had to do that to stop him. He actually has Innovate up with no bark skin. That hasn't been dispelled at the moment. RDSA is gonna be put into a poly. Another is gonna be taking damage. Now, Enix, it's sat rather in the center, and you can see that Phenom wants to go over and fear him. At the moment, Desis is not got to worry about RDSA. He was being controlled. Now he has to worry. Phenom's going to have to come back.
Oh, look at this. Another taking so much damage, down to 6.5k. He's healed up, and that definitely forced the Nature's Swiftness.
Here comes the Blade Storm. And the Blade Storm actually, there is no evasion on that Blade Storm. Mortal Strike is up, and Desis goes down to 4k, 2k, 1k, and another is low. But no evasion. Blade Storm with an MS before it happened, maybe even putting an overpower as well, is going to be SK going into the grand final.